Okay, hello everybody. How you guys doing? My name's Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. Bit of an impromptu stream tonight. Wasn't sure if I was gonna do it or not, so sorry. I will get better at giving you guys advanced warning heads up. I gave you all of 10 minutes this time before I started, so I don't really expect to see anybody on. But anyway, if you do join, thank you so much for joining. Um, so we need to talk a little bit about Andrew Callaghan. But before we start into that, I want to show you guys what we were working on before in the past, and I think I'm going to stop tonight. So this was our little witch person in the witch house kind of thing. And I thought it looked pretty good. I still need to do some lighting over here behind the witch. I need to do some lighting from this and then I want to put some bubbling stuff inside of the cauldron here, and I got to put some shadows down on the floor and over here by the bookcase and stuff like that. But I think it turned out pretty good so far, and I think I'll just do all that later. Truth is, I'm getting a little bored of this. We've been working on it for like a month and a half, so time to start something else. So anyway, well, guys, first off, I'm gonna open something here, and this is something I drew last month, and I think we're gonna color it. So, Andrew Callaghan, if you guys don't know who that is, he is the guy from Channel 5. You may know him from that. It's his YouTube channel, Channel 5. Formerly of a channel called All Gas No Brakes, and he has an HBO special called This Place Rules. And what he does is that he goes out and interviews people, and he has had some sexual assault allegations come out against him recently, which don't leave him looking pretty good. In fact, I gotta say, it makes him look pretty bad. Now, full, full disclosure, I like this guy. That is to say, I like his content. I think it's hilarious. And the thing about him, which makes it funny, is that he doesn't try to be funny. He just sort of points the microphone and goes out and interviews the craziest people. And the people that he interviews are really screwed up. And that's what makes it fucking hilarious, right? So it really, really, really pains me to see what's happening to the dude, but this is what's happening with him, right? Um, and it sucks, but we got to talk about it. We got to be fair, and this means calling people out when they say or do things which are wrong, no matter how much you like them personally, right? Um, I guess it's what they kind of say. You should never meet your heroes. Pony Throat, hey, how you doing? Thanks for joining, man. But it's kind of like what they say, you should never meet your heroes because they're always going to disappoint you. You know what I mean? Like there's one time I really like Tori Amos. I don't know if you guys know who Tori Amos is. I really like her music. I was always into her even as like a teenager, right? And one time when I was in my early 20s, friend of mine he told me that he could get me backstage at a concert and I could like go meet her and stuff. And I didn't want to do that because what if I went and met her and she was a complete bitch? Like, what if that happened? Like, what if I go and I meet this person that I really like her music and all this other stuff, and it's like, oh, I listen to your music every day, blah, blah, blah. And what if she was just like a total dismissive bitch and like told me to fuck off and all this other shit? Like, what if that happened? Then it would just ruin it. And then I would never want to listen to her ever again. And so I said, no, no, thank you. I don't want to go meet this person, right? This rich and famous person, because it could fuck it up. Or what if she wasn't a bitch? What if I just went and met her and she was just like smelly and had like a big ass booger hanging out of her nose? It would just ruin it. And it would just be like, man, I can't listen to I can't listen to this anymore. It's like, I don't know. They say never meet your heroes, and that's because it's pretty obvious in this day and age, especially since this day and age because of the internet and everything, that celebrities are just normal people like the rest of us. And like normal people, they sometimes do very wrong, bad, and sometimes even horrible things. So you're asking Pony Throat, what is this guy accused of? What did this guy supposedly do? Well, it's a little complicated. So there's been some allegations of sexual assault by this guy, right, Andrew Callaghan. Apparently, this is a thing that's been going back for a few years now. Now it's not just recent. Back to 2018, 2019, 2020, and it's just sort of coming to light now. The thing about it, it doesn't look like he crossed the line into anything really illegal, although that is debatable. There kind of looks like he's um I guess the best way to describe it is that he was not taking no for an answer, but also doesn't get violent. So he never violently assaulted anybody from the allegations that I've seen. But he did kind of just like keep pestering women and being like really coercive until he finally obtains consent. So one thing that I've seen from all of the allegations so far seems to be that he does get consent, but only after like badgering them and then putting the women in sort of situations where they can't say no or where they're afraid to say no, which is, I guess that's not technically rape, right? Because he's not forcing himself on them, but that is kind of, I mean, one of the definitions of rape is coercion, right? But it doesn't, it's not like coercion in the sense that he's like threatening them with violence, but rather making them feel extremely uncomfortable, basically being a creep. Like what it sounds like to me, it sounds like that sort of like ridiculous fucking pickup artist shit. Kind of sounds like that's what Andrew Tate's doing, right? So one of the things they tell you to do, like if you ever subscribe to any of this pickup artist, malarkey, one thing they tell you to do is to like, you know, like touch and engage in like, physical contact and stuff like that, start rubbing their shoulders or like putting your hand on their thigh, shit like that, right? Just to kind of get them close to you, that kind of thing. Seems like he does that. Seems like he sort of will ask over and over, like a woman will say no, and then he'll ask over and over and over again and kind of manipulate it so that they're alone, you know, until they feel like uncomfortable with it, shit like that. So that's the thing, right? It sort of reminds me a lot of god damn it, what was the one comedian that was like masturbating over the phone? Louis CK. Reminds me a lot of the allegations against Louis C.K., right? Because if you guys didn't know, like basically Louis C.K. had the same kind of allegations where he never actually like raped anyone. He never like forced it, never like forced himself on anybody or used violence, nothing like that, or even used like coercion or none of that shit, but he would just do incredibly in like appropriate things, right? Sometimes the women he was working with, but so it never crossed that line into anything that you could go to jail for. Now there is one caveat to that when it comes to Andrew Callaghan. Apparently he also would try to get girls drunk and then that way he could like take advantage of their like lowered inhibitions and shit. And in some states in this country, that is illegal, right? Most notably California. If you kind of like you can't obtain consent when someone is under the influence in California. But it's not. I don't think it's like that in every state in the country. So it may be different in certain other states that he was in, because a lot of these women apparently are from like, because with his job, he like travels around a lot and like talks to people, shit like that. So a lot of these are in other states, right? But I know in California, like for example, the thing is, that's the problem with that is that it's very hard to prove, right? It's very hard to prove that you deliberately got somebody drunk so that you could have sex with them, right? Because if you go to a bar and you're buying drinks for somebody and they're accepting those drinks, then that's sort of like, two consenting adults engaging in a legal activity, right? It's only so it's very, the thing is, if you're like underage, somebody buys you drinks, buys you alcohol, much easier to prove that there was nefarious intent, right? But if you're an adult and you're at a bar and someone's buying you drinks and you're accepting those drinks and then you decide to go home with them, and then it's hard for you to then to prove that he got you drunk on purpose to like take advantage of you. So that's one of the things. It's one of those things that, like, if you're on a college campus, for example, you can get kicked out, but you can't get arrested for that. Like, if you just the next day end up doing something you didn't mean when you were drunk, which is kind of fucked up, but that's how it is. That's the law. Maybe that's not how the law should be, So that's what makes it a little creepy. It's sort of he sort of skirts it all the way up to the edge. And then there's another allegation where he actually like tried to like, you know, get on a woman in a car, which we'll look at. I have the video of it where he basically actually I did have the video. I thought I had the video, but there's another allegation where he essentially is accused of inappropriate touching and shit like that inside a car. Like he asked this woman that accused him of this behavior to dinner in order to apologize to her, and then in the car sexually assaulted her, and she had to basically kick his ass out of the car, you know. And yeah, so it's kind of doesn't look very good for him, if I gotta say the truth. You know what I mean? So anyway, Pony Throat. These allegations are easy to stick to people in general, people can tell would be able to obtain sex without stealing it. Wait, what? Let me read that again. These allegations are easy to stick to people in general can tell would be able to obtain sex without stealing it. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Pony Throat. Um, do you mean like these allegations are easy to stick to people who you can tell would be able to obtain sex without stealing? I don't. I'm not really. Sorry, I don't really understand what you're trying to say, dude. And if you could like say that again. Anyway, yeah. So we have here a couple of Twitter threads. Let me go ahead and turn on my window here, right? So this is from somebody named what is her name? It's Lana. This is her name, Lana, who is sharing another video. This person, Lana, though, has her own sort of connected story to this, right? So why don't we make this a little smaller here, just so that we can make that full screen. And then let's listen to the video that this person has to say here. Right, so here's one of the girls who has an allegation. Now, I want to say that this particular one is not like, this is more like creepy behavior. This allegation doesn't seem to me to cross the line into something that would be considered like illegal, but it's still pretty creepy and a little like, he should know better. So let's listen to what the woman has to say before we go on.
And I'm shaking because I've tried a couple different times and haven't been able to get my point across, but I don't like seeing abusers get platforms. And my abuser, Andrew Callaghan, also known as All Gas No Breaks, Channel 5, and whatever his new HBO show's called, I forget, has been plastered all over my news feed, and I've tried to come to him person to person and try to get him to take accountability for what he did, but his version of what happened the night that he assaulted me is so skewed. So I will tell you that he did eventually get consent. And that's the main point, is that he eventually got consent because he wore me down. He told me he needed a place to stay for the night. He had some sort of falling out with one of his crew members.
All right, now that before we go on, that is kind of what I was talking about. So yeah, wearing somebody down, is, I mean, I guess it's technically consent. Like I guess it's like enough to keep you out of jail, but definitely creep behavior because you shouldn't have to ask like 15 times in order to have sex. You know what I mean? Like, should just be once. Like, I don't know why you would want to ask like 15 times. Doesn't it get awkward after she says no the first time and shit? But let's continue on with her story here, right? Before we comment, let's continue on.
Members or whatever, and I was very clear about the fact that we are not hooking up. He gets in my bed and wears me down to the point where I eventually do agree to do things that I wasn't proud of. And I wasn't proud of them and thought it was my fault for so long that I continued to be nice to him after the situation. He wouldn't leave my house the next morning. Um, and then as time went on and I processed things, I thought, you know what? Just because eventually I said, okay, whatever, because I was trying to just get the whole night over with so that it could be morning so that he could leave. It doesn't discount the fact that I told him no. I told him no so many times prior to this. I said, I'm tired. I'm not really feeling it. I came up with any excuse that I possibly could to just get him off of me. And he still found a way to coerce me into things that I didn't want to do. And this is really hard for me to say. I never thought I would come forward, but it's even more hard to have to relive the trauma that I endured every single day by seeing this man as a social justice warrior, as someone who cares about human rights, get a platform. You shouldn't be supporting him. And at the end of the day, like, I've told close friends of mine, I've tried coming out about this before, and he texted me saying that it basically ruined his life and that his life was over now because of things that I said. And other women have come forward to me, but this is my first time publicly talking about it on a platform like TikTok because I hope it gets traction. I hope people listen to me. I hope that if something similar has happened to you, that you know that that's not your fault. It wasn't my fault what happened to me. Just because I eventually
Okay, eventually caved. Yeah, so this was the first one that I saw here. And like I said, according to her story, she eventually said yes, right? Now, that means it's not illegal. That means that it's, if she, if you get consent even during that, basically it should not be thrown in jail for this, right? That doesn't mean that it's right or that the woman still shouldn't complain, because a lot of guys would turn around and be like, well, you said yes, so what's the problem? And it's like, well, the guy can still be a creep, and doesn't mean that he has to be thrown in jail. Doesn't mean that what he did was like worthy of jail time. You know what I mean? And it's, yeah, the thing about it, okay, it sounds like something that you would get from like a teenager, you know? Like, it sounds like someone who was like 15 or 16 or 17 who's never like gotten any before, like, and finally like gets like a girl alone in her bed and just basically fucking like begs her for sex. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like, which is like, okay, if you're a teenager, that's one thing, but like this guy is like fucking 26 or something like that. Like, by this point, when you're a consenting adult, like, you should understand what consent means, right? You should understand like that kind of behavior isn't the kind of shit that you got away with when you were a kid, like, shouldn't be happening anymore, and there's consequences for the way you act. So it seems creepy, and like I said before, it kind of sounds like shit that you hear from like pickup artists is what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, those are kind of some of the things they tell you to do. Go out with a girl, get her drunk, get her alone, isolate her from her, get her away from her friends, right? Get her in a situation where like, you know, and then when they sort of when you pester them like that, Like that's called from the pickup artists. That's called last minute resistance. There's an actual term for that. It's when the girl, you guys are like making out and you're like all the way to like third base or some shit like that, and she still says no and is telling you to leave and stuff like that. They call that last minute resistance, and like there's entire YouTube videos on how to get beyond last minute resistance. I'm not even kidding. I wish I was making this up, and it sounds exactly like that's what he was doing. Like he was. It sounds to me like he was taking that sort of like advice that you get from like pickup artist guys like Andrew Tate and shit like that. You know what I mean? Seems kind of fucked up. There's a few more. So this particular person who posted this, right? Who's Lana, who posted this video. Right, this video is from somebody named Carolyn Elise here. That's this woman here. Lana has her own story. Just in let's make this a little bit bigger, right? Here's the tweet. Debating if I should comment on this or not, considering I had an uncomfortable, not assault, just uncomfortable sexual situation with him and another person that makes it easy for me to believe her claims. So a few more tweets from Lana here. Mostly it was just really awkward. He was extremely pushy. It dipped out midway in, something I regret even doing in the first place, but again, it was not assault in my case at all, but he was very persistent, awkward, pushy, personal in the situation I experienced. Everyone involved, him and me and the other person, were all heavily under the influence of either marijuana or alcohol at the time, so that may have been a large part of it. That is another sort of tool that these pickup artist guys do is, get her drunk, get her stoned, whatever, because it lowers your inhibitions, and they believe at least that it, makes it easier to like move in and seal the deal or whatever. According to Lana here, again, I cannot stress enough, it was not assault. I was not interested in the situation. It was incredibly comfortable, but it was mainly the other person I won't be naming who pressured me in the situation, not Andrew. The only really posting this because the way she described it, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds really similar to how he acted when I sucked his dick. But I did consent to it, so it's not like I'm a victim at all. Just personally believe her. So you see, creepy. Now that's the thing. It's like, okay, the creepy behavior. It's not illegal, right? But it does sound pretty creepy. So there's degrees to sexual assault, right? And so far, it seems like it's just wacky, creepy behavior. Maybe the guy doesn't deserve to get canceled. There's a few other things here. Let's see. This is Cornbread Casserole. That's the other person here, Carolyn Elise. This is her TikTok. And there was another video here from somebody that I wanted to. Damn it! I shouldn't have closed that. This is another person, but here let's
In regards to the whole Andrew Callaghan
right.
situation.
Let's listen to this one because it's only a few minutes long. This is sort of like you can see here that she's been crying because people have been fucking with her, right? Because that's what happens whenever somebody comes out and makes accusations like this, or even ones that deal with, more serious allegations than this so far, is that men come out of the woodwork and they start to harass the accuser, whether it's justified or not. That's what happens, right? Because we live in very, very polarizing times, right? Let's make this a little smaller since we're going to be watching another video here. Since we live in very, very polarizing times, right, where people can't make a comment on anything without it becoming super political, anytime a woman comes out and talks about anything that's even remotely related to sexual assault or anything of that nature, you get all kinds of like men's rights people coming out of the woodwork and basically fucking their lives up, which is a very big deterrent against women doing this. An entire sort of subculture of men's rights dudes come out and just basically will fuck with you if claiming that you're me tooing people and that you're ruining this man's life and all this other crap if you try to tell your story. you know. On the other end, you have people on the left like me that tend to say, will believe automatically everything that the accuser says. And that's not how you want to do it either. What you want to do is trust but verify. You know, you shouldn't automatically discount it when somebody comes out with an accusation like this. You should trust but verify. Okay, she says what she says. Is there any truth to it? Right? Here's the thing about stuff like this. When you get these sorts of like serial, people that do this kind of thing, it's never to one woman. If you look at, for example, Bill Cosby, right? When the first accusation came out about Bill Cosby, nobody believed it, right? But, then another woman came forward, then another woman, then another woman. And then before you knew it, it was something like fucking 20 women or some shit came forward about Bill Cosby. And it's like, okay, if it's one person making an accusation, then you can, then you can believe it or not, right? But when it's something like, 20 different women coming forward and saying, all of them saying the exact same thing, like, are 20 different women who don't know each other really going to come out and make up lies about some random fucking celebrity for some reason? Like, no. No. It becomes a lot more believable, right? When you have multiple accusations. So far, for Andrew Callaghan, there are 13 women so far have come out and have made accusations of varying, I guess, you know, wrongness. I don't know really the right word, right? Varying, uh, accusations of varying strength, or not strength, um, illegality. There you go. That's the right word, right? And some of them claiming that he straight up, assaulted them pretty bad, and then some saying that it was just an awkward hookup, that he was very pushy and persistent. Some saying that he tried to get them drunk, shit like that. And it sort of doesn't look good for him. At the very least, as far as I know, none of them are claiming that he did anything that should land him in jail. But definitely makes him sound like some kind of creepy ass fucking, you know, person with very, very, I guess, bad ideas about women and what consent actually means, you know. But I don't know. Like I said, it reminds me of Louis C.K. It was nothing that'll throw him in prison. It just makes him look like a fucking total like dirtbag creep. So let's listen to this one. This is about 3 minutes long. Wow, I see there's a lot of comments in the chat here. Let's listen to this video and then I'll read some comments. I'm only gonna stream here for maybe another 30 or 40 minutes. This is not gonna go all night, but just want to kind of get through these a little bit. Hang on one second, guys. Let me just open this up because there's another video that I want to search for while this is playing. So let's make this a little bigger and hear what she's got to say.
This is the last time that I'm going to be talking about it. A friend of mine texted and asked if I was okay because she saw my post on Reddit. That wasn't me that posted on Reddit. I'm getting a lot of hate. You guys seem to need receipts. Someone speaking up about their story isn't enough, so I'm going to share with you some, I guess, evidence that I was with him that night. I didn't have a camera set up in my bedroom, so I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to take my word for it, and if you don't, that's okay. This is the last time I'm ever going to talk about this. And I've made my TikTok private, so if anyone wants to share what I'm saying with the people on Reddit, feel free to do that, but I can't mentally handle this anymore. This was Andrew and I agreeing to hang out when he was in St. Pete. This was us the night at the bar. We went into the bathroom to take a photo because this bar, the bathroom has its own Instagram page and it's just something people do at that bar. Also, like I said many times before, I trusted him.
So,
And people are blaming me for trusting him, and I did, and it is what it is. This is a comment from someone who I've been speaking with about what happened to her. This is a message I got about a year ago from someone who said that he been known to associate with underage girls. This is the story from the same person of her experience. You can pause to read any of this stuff. This is about how he was canceled on his
You
French
know what?
Quarter.
Let's go back and read some of that. Okay, just so we can kind of see. Yeah, let's read some of these before we let's see what she's got to say here.
Of her experience. You can
How do
pause
I
to
how do
read
I
any of this
rewind
stuff.
fucking
This is about how he was.
stop? How the hell do you rewind? Oh, there it is. God, why is it's in white? It's like, yeah, I can barely see it. Okay. Let's see what a few of these say here. Andrew sexually assaulted me as well. I had previously been involved with him, but only when I was extremely drunk. Confronted him about it, and he invited me to dinner to apologize. Yeah, this is the person here. And then he assaulted me in my car, and I had to physically kick him out. Thank you for sharing. I literally finally came out about this yesterday on my Insta because I can't fucking stand this dude popping up on my TV as social justice warrior. I've also heard many as a social justice warrior. That was the one I was talking about. There's a video of that I wanted to find it where that girl. That's what I'm looking for. Like she basically tells that story, and I can't find the video, so I'll just sort of sum it up for you. But long story short, the guy they go out to dinner, and while they're out eating, right? Let me go ahead and just turn this off over here. While they're out eating, he says, "Do you want to fuck in the car?" And she says, "No, I don't want to fuck in the car." Because the whole point was he was supposed to apologize to her, right? And then they eat, and like 5 times while they're eating, he asks her if she wants to have sex in her car. And then she says, "No, no, no." And then she agrees to give him a ride home for some dumb reason, which I wouldn't have fucking done that. I would have told his ass to walk, but So what are you gonna do? So she agrees to give him a ride home, and then apparently he just sort of just tried to like make out with her while they're in the car, and she had to like yell at him to stop. And then they start driving, and then she said she pulled over to a busy street with lots of people around and told his ass to get out. And then he tried to kiss her before he got out. And it's fucking horrible. And that was the video that I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. So, I don't know, man. That kind of sounds getting pretty close to the edge. It's not exactly the R word, but pretty damn close. I could see how a girl in that situation, a woman in that situation, would be extremely scared. Because guys, I don't know if you know this, but women get scared of you because you can beat the shit out of them. That's why they get scared of you. And even a dude who like doesn't work out and is like out of shape is still 9 times out of 10 physically stronger than the woman he's with, right? So it can be frightening for a woman to be in a car or something with a dude that is being pushy and all this other shit, and especially when he's like trying to fucking get on you, kissing you and stuff without your consent. This is where it kind of pushes that edge. I mean, it's still technically he didn't force himself on her, but kind of sounds like he might have maybe wanted to, or maybe he knows not to cross that line, but he seems to be going all the way up to the edge of it. So I wish I could find this video because the video is much more powerful than just reading some comments on a fucking like Instagram or some shit, right? Let's see. There's a few more. Let's read this one. I know it sounds cheesy to say, but you're very brave, blah blah. Okay, here we go. Also, my friend has mutual friends with his camera guys and basically heard that he was sleeping with girls who looked very young and lived with their parents. There doesn't seem to be any, as of yet, substantial proof that he has done anything with someone who isn't of age. So that's the other thing you got to remember. Just if somebody just says it in a comment somewhere or just makes it, you shouldn't automatically believe it. Like I said, trust but verify, right? So this comment means to me is like until some of those women come forward and say, yeah, I was 16 and and whatever, and this happened. Until that happens, I'm not going to count that. You know what I mean? Just because somebody looks young, that is what you would call a baseless allegation right there. It's like, no, don't get mad at somebody for some shit you think he did. You know what I mean? Like, don't get mad at somebody for shit that you think he's doing bad stuff. It's like, well, no, you have plenty of people now who are actually telling the real story of stuff that actually happened to them. Listen to those people. And until it comes out that if somebody does come forward in a few days and accuses him of some inappropriate actions with some underage girls, then we'll talk about that when that shows up. But that's just something I want to make that distinction here because I don't want to be one of those people that just jumps down someone's throat the minute that there's an allegation. And we should never do that because you got to remember, things with sexual allegations like this, sexual assault, rape, it can really ruin someone's life. And we should all remember that, right? We should all remember that even just the allegation of this kind of thing can destroy someone's career for a very long time. You know, if he did, he might get out of this unscathed. I'm not saying that he's over with, canceled, and that they're going to like ban his YouTube channel and get rid of his HBO special, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if it actually did come out that let's say the allegation comes out that he drugged someone and like took advantage of them, like roofied somebody, right? If that came out, or the allegation came out that he went a little too far and tore someone's clothes, or like that could definitely ruin this guy, right? And that's like, no, we shouldn't assume shit, right? Until somebody actually comes out and says that, like it's like no, then don't assume that he actually did it. Okay, that's one thing that you have to be fair to both sides. It's like okay, you listen, you believe the woman, right? But you verify the story, and you also don't ruin someone's life when their actions don't deserve that. You know what I mean? As it is right now, I think it's kind of on a knife edge. Like I admit I like the guy's content, right? But I might think twice now before paying for it. You know what I mean? Like if it stays like this and there's nothing else, then I think he might kind of be skirting. I think he's right on the edge. If it can get worse, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it won't get worse. I mean, I don't know. Let's a little bit more of this. Let's see what we got here. God damn it! I can't see the fucking thing. It's like okay, here we go. Let's see. Here's a good one. Okay, the situation I was in was at a party probably 3 years ago, and I thought he was cool at first, and we had a good conversation. Then we basically went into a room, kind of isolated from everyone. And he was really pressuring me to go into his house, and I said no multiple times. He kept pushing. You know, he's tall. I'm only 5'4". I was pretty drunk. I feel like he was blocking the doorway, so we were in there for a while. Luckily, my friend came to check on me. That right there is another thing that the pickup artists tell you to do is to sort of like isolate a woman from her friends, so that she's just with you and ends up going home with you. That's one of the techniques they teach you. Like if you're in a bar and there's a group of like girls, like four, five, six women, sort of chilling, and you want to get with one of them. One of the things they tell you to do is to try to like draw one of them away from their friends so that they leave, and then she has no choice but to go home with you. That's one of the things they do, and it's like kind of sounds a little predatory, don't it? Right? Kind of sounds like that was something he was doing here. Like isolating her friend, keeping her in a room by herself with him, right? You know, because that way the magic can happen, right, guys? Like that's kind of what it sounds like, man. It's a little creepy. Let's see. Let's go ahead and listen to the rest of this.
Same person of her experience. You can pause to read any of this stuff. This is about how he was canceled on his French Quarter confession show when he went to Loyola because.
All right, let's rewind that a
This
little.
is about.
And let's read this while she's not in front of the text there. Let's see. Of course, I'm also still trying to gather more details, but I was a few years ahead of him at Loyola in New Orleans. And I've heard he got canceled at a party pretty bad, but it was kept on the down low. That's why he was replaced on his show, The French Quarter Confessions. Apparently, that was like an early sort of like show that he did when he was in college. I don't know. He doesn't speak much about New Orleans anymore. We're trying to get more info to further support him. Also, Tim Heidecker viewed my story on TikTok, so he's aware. Also, one of my favorites on winning, blah, blah. I know how hard it is to come forward, especially when your abuser holds a position of power, so you're brave and did a big thing. Okay. So, yeah, apparently he also has a history of this going all the way back to when he was in college, and then people saying that they grew up with him and stuff, and they know all about this kind of thing. Let's fast forward a little more, see if there's any more. Here we go. I just wanted to let you know I went to school with Andrew. He pulled the same shit with me and a friend of mine. He frequently Airbnb listed his place and did the I need somewhere to stay tactic. Oh, did the I need somewhere to stay tactic. Like that was a thing that he was saying that with a lot of the women there, since he was traveling, he would say shit like, "Hey, I got no place to crash tonight. You mind if I stay at your house?" kind of thing, because he was traveling around doing the show, and so they would say yes, and then one thing would lead to another, and at least he would try to make things lead to another, and that's how this shit happened, right? So, he also used to try and tell people he was on a male birth control injection. I'm very sorry this happened, and I know how gross it feels to watch people praise his politics. One more. Someone told me that he told him that he has a list of women that he gets to give him head without reciprocating, like truly disgusting. Okay. He thinks the clitoris is inside of the vagina. It's actually embarrassing for him and that he's this gross. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with having a list of women that give you head. But you should reciprocate, folks. You should always give as much as you get. Okay, that's not really an allegation. Let's see. Here we go. My friend lived with him for a while and apparently sexually assaulted their other roommate, who has been terrified to come forward. You're helping a lot of people. I'm sharing this. Sorry, some of the people are so thick in the head and they don't have compassion. Blah blah blah. Okay, so more allegations here from lots of people. I've heard through the grapevine, Andrew, of begging girls for sex till they said yes. I have a mutual friend that went on a date with him. He used the same excuse, fall out with the crew, and needed a place to stay. Said, no, you have a motel, pay for a hotel, and then he got pissed as fuck. So, kind of sounds like that's his move, right? Where he just says, hey, I need a place to stay, goes over to the girl's house, and then just sort of like begs and badgers them until they finally give in. And, I mean, like I was saying, folks, let's turn this off for now. I'll put this down in the chat here if you guys want to watch the rest of this yourself. Here's the link down there. But yeah, let's go ahead and turn this off for now. I mean, that's what I was saying, right? It's not illegal what he's doing. It's seeming, I mean, I would say, begging for sex. It kind of sounds more like he's using sort of like coercion, but not like forcible coercion. Like he's not. Apparently, he's not threatening to beat anybody up or like murder people's families or any shit like that if they don't have sex with them, right? But it does kind of sound like he's being creepy. So I don't know. Let's read some of the comments here because there's a lot of comments. All right. Let's see. Dana Cat, I don't know who you're talking about. Well, so this guy Andrew Callaghan, he has an HBO special called "This Place Rules," and a couple of YouTube channels. His current one is called Channel 5. And what he does is that he goes out and he interviews people, and it's hilarious. And I said that at the beginning of the stream. I think the guy's fucking hilarious, which makes it all the more shitty to see this kind of thing happening, right? You know what? This image is way too fucking big. But, fuck it. Let's just keep it this big. Anyway, makes it kind of shitty to see this happening because it's like, I just wish I could, like, you know, find content creators who turn out not to be dirtbags in their normal ordinary lives. Like, can't we get some like normal like upstanding citizens who like don't have, aren't like fucking misogynist like borderline rapists and shit? I don't know. Really sucks. Really sucks because I liked him. The same way, and here's another, the same way that I liked fucking Louis C.K. Right? I admit this. I think Louis C.K. is fucking hilarious. Right? But just because you like somebody doesn't mean you make excuses for their behavior. You know what I mean? You have to see what you have to treat people according to their actions, and it's like, I mean, and it's just, you know, I mean, it's not anything that is illegal, but is this enough to where I'm gonna stop watching his stuff? Maybe. I'm undecided. It's right on the edge. Like I said before, it's right on the edge. You know what I mean? He technically has not done anything that seems to be overtly illegal, with the possible exception of trying to get women drunk so that he can get with them. And that's a bit of a gray area, depending on where you are. When I say gray area, I mean it's hard to prove. It's hard to prove that he did that just to have sex with them. Even if that's like fitting a pattern of his, like you can't take that to a court of law and convict somebody on it. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't reject someone for that kind of behavior because it's creepy as fuck and wrong. You know what it seems to me, folks? This all of this sort of like it's very it's a very adolescent way to look at the world. Just like this pickup artist shit and the MRM shit. Like we are talking about Andrew Tate last week. Which I'm thinking of like doing another stream on him because he's just a gold mine of fucking ridiculous bullshittery. You know, like it's a very adolescent way of viewing the world. It's sort of like you have to view people as just objects, like women especially as just objects, like as a way for to be exploited. And it's a very, I don't know, when I say it's an adolescent, it's because that's how I viewed women as an adolescent. Right? And I think I grew out of it. I try my best now to respect people and treat women as actual people and not objects and all of this other shit that they tell you to do when you're a kid and that you don't do. It's something I think you need to learn. I think men especially need to learn how to do that. It's something that men need to learn how to do. They need to learn how to treat other people with respect and dignity and what that actually means. Not treating a woman as an object, right? I don't think a lot of young men even understand that concept because our society, as such as it is extremely misogynistic, and these are lessons that get drilled into your head, as when you're a boy, right? Girls are icky, right? Then you start liking girls when you hit junior high school. You get a boner for the first time and you start liking girls, right? But they're not equal. You notice your dad doesn't treat your mom the same as he treats other men, stuff like that, right? It's like, well, why is that? Because she's a girl, And then you see how your older brother has like, how he treats his girlfriend and shit like that. And then you watch TV and then you see fucking dudes on the rap music videos and stuff, like with 16 fucking like bitches hanging off of their fucking like sports cars and shit. right? Treating them like fucking like they're commodities, right? And the thing is, if you are someone who isn't super attractive, like Andrew Callaghan isn't, uh the guy is not a very attractive man. I'll hand that to him, right? It can be kind of hard for you to get experience in relationships, right? When you're not an attractive person, right? And you develop strategies like this. And this seems to be his strategy that he's developed. Seems to be just sort of ask and ask and ask and ask and badger and get her alone and get her drunk and then ask and ask and ask and ask until she finally fucking just says fine. And then he gets to have sex with her, which is like, like I said before, when you're like fucking 16 and you do that, you know, it's a lot different than when you're 26 and do that. Like, you should know by the time you're 26 that that's not the way that you treat people. I mean, you should know it at 16 too, but it's understandable. You can understand why you wouldn't because you're a kid. Kids don't fucking know anything. Like, I don't know. It's 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 a cancer at the root of our society for sure. Anyway, more comments. Apparently, Fanver. How you doing? Thank you. I've never seen you before. Thanks for joining, man. Fanver. Apparently, Andrew confirmed some of the allegations in a conversation with H3. Andrew Callaghan, the person who runs the Channel 5 YouTube channel. Um, from what I saw, he didn't confirm them. He confirmed that he knew these women, but he didn't like confirm that he acted this way or even what anything that he did was wrong. But he confirmed that these were women that he like had experiences with. So, I mean, then again, I didn't actually watch that, so I'm not sure. I'll have to like, you know, I'm just getting it through hearsay. So, I don't know. I'll check out what you're saying. But yeah. Fanver, if it is eventual consent, then it really isn't true consent. And yeah, um in the eyes of the law it is. Right. Now, it isn't true consent, yes. I would agree with that as well. If you're with a girl and she just is sort of like says yes to get rid of your ass so that she could eventually like or if she says it because you just keep fucking badgering her and quote wear her down unquote, I would not call that consent either. Right. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be something that you can go to jail for. That doesn't seem to be something that doesn't cross the line into illegality. So, um, you know, it's not like he can go to prison for that. But I would agree with you as well that that's not really true consent. It's sort of just like, I mean, it is consent in so much that you can't get a conviction on him. But did the woman really want to do it? No. Right? So, it's like I said, it's in that he seems to be pushing it. Like I said before, dude, he seems to be pushing it up to that edge, which is wrong. And we don't have to like the guy doesn't have to like break the law for people to not like him, right? Or for the people to you know, cancel him or whatever, or demand that he loses his channel, shit like that. But I don't know. I mean, I think at this point it's just sort of up to the individual whether you think he deserves that or not. I don't know. I'm really torn because I really like this guy, man, and I really wish that I really wish that this wasn't happening. I have to. I admit it to all of you out there watching right now. I really wish that this was not a stream that I was making right now. Because I think this shit is funny. I'm sorry. I think this shit is funny. And it's like, it sucks that somebody with talent has to be such a fucking asshole, right? I don't know. I mean, fuck, man. I hope this is it. I'll put it this way. I hope this is it. I hope he hasn't done anything worse than these allegations that have come out, right? Because they're pretty fucking bad, especially the one about the girl saying that she had to fight him off in her car. That is like, I mean, once again, not something you can get arrested for, but like if I was that girl's boyfriend, I'd be kind of pissed. That's the kind of thing that you get your ass beat for. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that like the girl's like new boyfriend or like older brother or even her best friends, like if they found his ass, like they'd beat the shit out of him for it. Right? Because it's kind of like fucking creepy pushing, pushy ass creepy shit like that. It's like, man, like I don't know. It's not a good strategy for long term relationships. If any of you guys out there are wondering, you shouldn't have to ask a woman 17 times in order to get with you. Usually if she says no the first time, that's it. And that's the thing, right? Because you see this like in movies and in media and stuff. We always have these love stories about the man who never gave up and all this other stuff. And, the girl says no, and he just sort of hangs around and becomes her friend, and then gradually she falls in love with him. And it's like, yeah, we grow up with like bullshit like that. Men think that kind of shit is romantic. It's not romantic. Showing up, outside of a girl's fucking house in the middle of the night, serenading her out a window and shit, is not romantic. Right? It could be downright creepy. She could be afraid of you because, you're doing all this creepy shit that normal people don't do. Like, that's the thing that we don't understand, especially young men. When you're a teenager, that sounds like an awesome thing, doesn't it? I'll leave her flowers on her doorstep or something. I don't know. Some women might appreciate that. I'll send her notes or whatever. I'll fucking, like, buy her gifts and leave it for her in her car, that kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. You know, when you're a kid, that sounds like it's romance. When you don't know any better, right? When you're like fucking 15, 16, 17, and like, your experience of the world comes from like fucking shit you see on TV, that sounds romantic, right? But, when you're an adult, you should know already that no, this is not this stuff is no bueno. That's not how you should be working. Like, you know, you do that to people that you're already in a relationship with. You know, your girlfriend that you're already in a relationship with, you leave her flowers on her car or something, then she'll appreciate it. That's romantic. You don't do it to somebody that you're trying to like fucking get with. Like, no, especially someone who's told you no like over and over and over, right? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, more comments. Punny throat. This looks like a false accusation. That's why she's telling this to her TikTok instead of the police. Even if she started with the appeal to feminine weakness by saying, I'm literally shaking. Well, that's the thing, Pony Throat, right? What she's accusing the guy of is not something he can go to jail for. So, if she were to go to the police and try to make an accusation like this, that would be considered a false accusation. Because what she's saying, he didn't technically break any laws. So, it's not a thing for the police to handle, right? So it sounds more like she's trying to kind of go the reputation route, saying since she can't get his ass thrown in jail, she's just telling her story, hoping that it ruins his reputation, right? Now, here's the thing. I will go from the other direction as well, right? False accusations, false allegations are a thing that happens. And I know it happens because I've told this story before. It almost happened to me, right? I had a woman once at a job that I worked at who I've told the story, but I'll very briefly tell it again because I think it's interesting, right? About a little more than a decade ago. When was this? This was like maybe 2007, 2008. So yeah, a little more than a decade ago, maybe about 15 years. I worked at a place, and we hired a girl that I worked with before, a woman that I worked with before at a previous job, right? And at the time, I was doing QA for websites, quality assurance for websites. Not a hard job, right? And I was technically supposed to be I was like a team lead. I wasn't really her supervisor per se, but I was sort of like the lead guy, and then we had a manager, right? And it started out great, you know, with this person. She did a good job, stuff like that. She was intelligent, blah blah blah, right? And then she started kind of taking advantage because with the kind of place that we worked at, nobody micromanaged you. You kind of just did your thing, and then as long as you gave results, everything was cool, right? And she started taking advantage of that. Started calling out a lot. Started just sort of like not doing any work, right? Calling out a lot. Like, I mean, once a week. There was one month where she was out 8 days in the month. Like one time it was raining too hard. She just said, "I'm not coming in. It's raining." This is years and years before the whole you could work from home thing, right? So we didn't really have that option back then. And it was like, okay, you can't be doing that. You can't call out 8 days in a month. That's just not feasible. It doesn't matter what job you work at. You don't. I mean, you don't work 22 days out of a 30-day period. Like, that's bullshit, right? I mean, unless you have cancer or something. Like, unless you like have like a real medical condition that you're going to the doctor all the fucking time. Like, you know what I mean? And she started turning in really shitty work. And also, there were times when we would work on weekends and stuff, and we would sort of rotate it through the team, and she would never do it, stuff like that. Just being lazy as fuck, right? Well, I was supposed to be this person's lead, so I was kind of responsible for her output. And she essentially started telling me to fucking get bent, right? And the boss was like, thinking with his dick, so he didn't do anything about it. Because, he, like, I don't know, was into her or something, right? So I was like, all right, fucking, if he's not going to do nothing, then I'm going to have to, try to get some work out of this person. So one time, I basically went and I knew that she was going to give me a bunch of shit because she didn't want to do there were like weekend work that we would do, once a month and we would rotate it. And so I asked her to do it. And the way I did it is that at the time we were using Messenger. This is how long ago this was. It was fucking like Microsoft, like chat or whatever the fuck that was called, MSN Messenger. It was one of those, now that now you have like Slack. Like back then it was in like the built-in messaging app that came with Windows that nobody uses, like that like disappeared like a decade ago. It was that. So I got a chat window open and I told, and I got my two coworkers in the same window and I went to them and I said, "Hey, I'm going to ask, I'm not going to name her name, but I said, I'm going to ask her to work on the weekend. And you guys just chill. Don't say anything. Right? Don't say anything. Right? And then I asked her to do it in the chat window. And she fucking lost her mind and was a complete bitch about it, you know. And I was like, all right, fine. And was like, the thing is that I got it because when in the chat, it records it. And then I was like, all right, you're going to total fucking bitch about it, calling me names, all this other shit, right? So I took that and I took that to the boss and said, look at this, right? And that started a big fucking shitstorm. Long story short, it got this girl transferred off of my team because what happened was, and I'm skipping that. This is the sexual, false allegation part. Is I went to her and tried to talk to her about this one on one and said, hey, you know, I need you to start fucking doing your job better. Right? Like, you're out fucking half a month. You're not doing shit. People were complaining about her work and they would complain to me because I was supposed to be her, like, fucking shift lead and shit. And I was supposed to be responsible for her. And she kind of let me know in so many words that if I didn't leave her alone, then she was going to accuse me of sexual harassment. Right? The threat was there. and I got it loud and clear. So prior to this, prior to me getting her in this conversation that I recorded, right, through the chat app, for like 6 months, I basically just covered for her because she basically said, like, fucking give me any shit and I'm going to get you fired. And for those of you out there who don't work in a corporate environment, especially like if you just get the allegation of this, that's it, you're gone. Especially if you're a contractor, like I was at the time. I was not a permanent employee, was a contractor. They would just, like that, out of here, you're out of here, doesn't fucking matter, right? Doesn't matter if it's true, because when you're a contractor they have no obligation to investigate. If you're a permanent employee, they may try to do some shit like transfer you around or something, right? You're a contractor, you're fired the next fucking day. So it was like, all right. So for like 6 months, I basically covered for this person. I did her work for her sometimes because she wouldn't fucking do it in order to like keep things up. And so this was like after like 6 months of me basically fucking like babysitting this girl, covering for her, doing her work for her, shit like that. I finally fucking had enough. And so that's why I kind of set this trap. I set this trap, got her in a conversation where I knew she was going to get mad at me, or I knew she was going to like, blow up and start calling me names and shit. And then I took that to the boss and got her transferred. Right. Got her, the boss didn't fire her. What he did is he transferred her out of my group. So I didn't have to work with her anymore. And within 6 months, she got fired. Because as soon as I wasn't there to cover for her anymore, her bad work habits, like, suddenly people started noticing, oh, she's fucking gone 3 days this week. How come she's not here? Her shit's not getting done. And that's what happened. So, unfortunately, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have had to do that. Because in a perfect world, this person wouldn't have had that ability to lord something like that over me. Wouldn't have had that power, right? We don't live in a perfect world. Now, I acknowledge that, those types of things happen, but you also got to remember my story is rare, and 9 times out of 10 the sexual allegation goes the other direction, right? Just because it happened to me once, or nearly happened to me, it didn't actually, but she threatened me. She didn't actually do it, right? Just because that happened, I have this antidote or whatever, like antidote, right? Antidote, and I have this antidote, right? Like, just because this story, like, doesn't mean that every woman out there who does a false allegation is lying. You know what I mean? Like, that every woman out there who is like out, is telling lies when they say shit like this. It's like, no, no, you gotta keep that in mind. so so anyway, that was my own personal, like, story when it comes to like false, sexual harassment, like, allegations at least. I'm very, very well aware that they do happen out there, but it's sort of like I'm also aware that the world is, not a perfect place, and if you're a woman, you're at a disadvantage when it comes to this shit. Right? We're seeing it right here. Like, for example, the girl that we watched, who made this allegation in the first place, is sitting there making videos where she's crying. Why was she crying? Crying because people are fucking with her, because she had the audacity to even say something. I mean, imagine that, man. You know, imagine if you're just scared to even like make, to even come forward, even if your story is true, like, especially if it's true, I guess. Not even if it's true, especially if it's true. Like, you shouldn't have to be afraid. Shouldn't have to be afraid that just because you like say something about somebody who you think wronged you, right? Whether what they did was illegal or not, you should still be able to come forward and say it without having to worry about repercussions. I don't know. Anyway, long story. Let's get back to the chat here. Um, uh, let's see. Fanver, what in the world do you mean by feminine weakness? That is a weird statement. Pony Thought, to be fair, he does not look like somebody who necessarily had sex before age 25. Um, Feminine weakness. Well, it's the appeal to feminine weakness is a fallacy where you it's a fallacy to assume that women are naturally weak. So, um, when you the appeal to feminine weakness is sort of like the way of making an argument that resonates emotionally with people who believe that women are weak. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So it's an actual yeah, that's an actual fallacy that whether the woman making that accusation or not was actually doing that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate on that, but that actually is a thing. When the thing that Putting Threat said, that actually is a logical fallacy. Um, you Lantern Light. Yes, the evidence is pretty compelling against Callahan. Multiple people, similar MO verified. Yeah, exactly, exactly, and that's one of the things that happens when you get these accusers like this, right? There's never just one. There's always, and that's kind of one way of like of like you're more likely to believe somebody when there's 16 women that come out versus just one. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. It's kind of bad for him, man. I mean, fuck. I wish it was. I wish this shit wasn't happening. I really do. I really wish this shit wasn't happening. I feel this fucking sucks. This sucks, dude. Because I like his shit. God damn it. Why is this got a fucking man? Can't I live in the universe where like people don't do shit like this? Can I live in the fucking sexual harassment free universe? Like somebody make me a portal gun and shit, so I can just like portal over to the universe where people don't have like weird ass fucking hangups over sex, and if somebody just says no, they're cool with it. Like I don't know. Let's see. Punny Throat. Women who pile on accusation could be like, wow, this girl's accusing this man of sex crime, and it really rose her TikTok numbers. Well, he looked at me funny once, which is basically the same. Yeah, it seemed like a lot of the comments we read where some of them actually were seemingly just sort of like baseless. Like the one comment I said where like, oh, he looks like he gets with young girls who are definitely underage. Like, no, don't say shit like that, folks. You know what I mean? Like whoever said that, that's really irresponsible. Like don't don't accuse somebody of being a pedophile when you have no evidence of it. You know what I mean? Like if you really think that's true, go out and find whoever it was and listen to what they got to say. Like find whatever girl you thought was underage and verify it. But don't make those accusations, right? But still, I mean, a lot of them did seem to follow the same mo. They did seem to follow the same like pattern where he uses the same lines a lot. Seems to get girls, tries to do the same thing. Either gets them drunk or you know gets them alone, something like that, and then just fucking like uses the fucking like pretty please over and over and over attack. I mean, I don't know, man. It kind of sounds a little pathetic. I mean, if you ask me, like you shouldn't have to beg women for sex. Like seriously, if you're begging a woman for sex there, like man, up your game a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know. Work out or something. Get some clothes or clothes that look good. Get a good haircut. Try to make yourself appealing. Like why use trickery? Like it's never gonna end well anyway. I don't know. I don't understand that shit. Fanver, yeah, seems no crimes have been committed, but that definitely doesn't make the actions better. Also, from what I've seen, some accusations are from years ago, and only now they're being picked up. Exactly, exactly what I mean. Yeah, just because it's not illegal, just because it's not illegal, doesn't mean it's right. Kind of same like I was saying earlier with Louis C.K. The shit he did technically wasn't illegal, but it was definitely unethical and not the kind of thing you do with people you work with or even your friends. And that sort of seems like what's going on with Andrew Callaghan. I mean, he is getting consent. It's the way in which he's getting consent, which is like creepy. It's like, so really, what these women are doing, they're just coming out and saying the guy's fucking creepy. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, shit. Actions have consequences. Lewis the Hedgehog. Some say believe women, some say believe men. I say believe evidence. Yeah, I think you should trust but verify. Exactly what I mean. I think any really serious accusations need to have evidence. If somebody came out and said that he used force or something like that, that would need some evidence. Like if someone actually beat you up or used violence and actually like raped you, it's like, did you go to the police? Did you get a rape kit done? Do you have clothes that got ripped up? Do you have pictures afterwards? Like, and that's one of the things. That's why it's really important if this happens, regardless if you're a man or a woman. I mean, men get raped too. You know, they do a lot, and most of the men that get raped by other men. That's the other thing they don't like talking about. You always hear from MRM types and shit. They always say women rape men too and made to penetrate. Blah blah. Yeah, no, no. The majority of men who get raped are raped by other men. It can happen to you. Now, it's not a thing that most men worry about, but it's a possibility, right? So if it happens to you guys, you should go to the cops too. You should do the exact same thing that you say a woman should do, and you should go to the cops. You should like report it. You know, you should collect evidence because that's if you want to hold the guy accountable. Short of getting a shotgun and going and blowing his fucking balls off yourself, and then ending up in like prison for 20 years, right? Because you're not allowed to do that shit. The only way you'll hold his ass accountable is if you actually gather evidence. So that's why it's important. That's why it's important. Why we need to destigmify the you know victims of rape too, because this is what happens, right? Someone gets assaulted, someone gets raped, whatever, and then they get a stigma, and people start blaming them for it. Blaming the victim. Oh, well, why were you at this party at 2 in the morning without an escort anyway? You know, why were you wearing these clothes late at night, etc., etc.? Why were you wearing this revealing bikini top? All that other shit. And it's like, never mind the fact that you should be allowed to do whatever you want and wear whatever you want and not have to worry about, you know, anything like that happening. That's how it should fucking work, right? Same way that if I walked around like, with a briefcase filled with $100 bills, I shouldn't have to worry about somebody fucking robbing me. Now, it may not be street smart to do that, right? It may not be a good idea, but at the same time, you know, you shouldn't have to worry about that, especially if it's just clothes that you wear. It's like me saying if I wore a t-shirt that was yellow and then I went outside and somebody beat the shit out of me for wearing a yellow t-shirt. And then if I go and I go to the cops for it and the cops say, well, why were you wearing that yellow t-shirt? Didn't you know you were going to get your ass kicked? No. No, I had no fucking idea I was going to get my ass beat for wearing a yellow t-shirt. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, no, a woman should be allowed to wear whatever the fuck she wants. And the man should be able to fucking control himself and not, like, force himself on her. Right? That's how it should fucking work. So it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't like that. Like that really pisses me off because like the blaming the victim thing, because you don't blame the victim for any other crime, really. Someone steals your car, nobody goes to you and say, well, did you leave the car unlocked? No, nobody ever fucking does that, right? They just assume that whoever broke in your car stole it. If somebody burns your house down, nobody comes to you and says, well, did you leave a pile of dried leaves and some gasoline next to your house? It's like, no, and even if I did, I should expect that no one's going to come by and burn my fucking house down because that's wrong. So it's like, why do we assume women brought it on themselves? Why do we blame them for being victims, but we don't blame, nobody blames like a school of children when a maniac comes in and shoots 17 of them with a rifle. right? What do you do? Do you go into the school and be like, well, why did you go to school? Didn't you know a maniac was going to come in with a gun? Nobody does. Nobody fucking says that. So why is it okay to blame just this one particular crime? It's okay to blame the victim. I never understood that shit. Sorry, I can't get with it. But anyway, Lantern Light. I mean, regardless of what they say happened, the texts and photos which corroborate the story are pretty damn compelling. Yes, yes, they are, and that's it seems, yeah, it's bad news for him, man. Zesocket. Thank you for joining, Zesocket. I have not seen you in here before. Thank you for joining. Seems guilty as fuck. So many common accounts. Those women really don't seem like they're being smug or trying to take someone down. You can usually tell when someone is telling the truth with basic intuition. Yeah, that is, I mean, that's the thing. When you have multiple accounts all basically saying the same thing, it lends credibility to it. Unfortunately for him in his case. Fuck, I wish it fucking didn't, but it does. It lends credibility to it, so. But, I mean, it's just fucking shitty. It's so shitty. Like, why does this gotta be happening? Why does this shit happen to people I like? God damn it. Every time I find somebody I fucking like, turns out that they're like, I don't know, some like creepy ass shit happening in their past. Like, god damn it. How come I can't just like normal content creators who, I don't know. Yeah. Lantern Light. The lying is especially damning if true, because if you lie to get sex from somebody, then it's absolutely illegal. Yeah, that is. I mean, here's the thing. Depending on the state you're in, that can be seen as coercion, right? In California, it is. You're not allowed to lie to somebody. Well, it depends, right? Like, if you. It's kind of like, I don't know. Here's the thing about that, right? If you lie to a girl and say you make more money than you make or something to, like, get her into bed, like, that is not against the law. You'll never be, like, you know, no jury will convict you for saying shit like that, because that's part of the seduction technique is sort of puffing yourself up, making yourself look good, shit like that, right? That's what really the majority of men do is when they try to pick up on women someplace is to try to like make themselves look good through stretching the truth in some way, right? But it's sort of like if you lie about like say your name and where you're from and like a bunch of shit like it can be illegal like if you're lying about like um lying in such a way that it deceives them, you know, how do I put this? It has to be very specific to like kind of breach that wall into illegality. You know what I mean? Like here's one way of doing it. If you lie like say you're somebody else and they don't know, like if you're like for example, if you have an identical twin and your twin shows up and says they're you and has sex with your girlfriend, that is like that's the kind of deception that where it becomes illegal and you can go to jail for that. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. It's not just lying about like you have to like lie about like your name and like a bunch of shit like you know what I mean? Like it's not just lying about saying, "Oh yeah, I have this job that, I work for Warner Brothers and all this other shit and I can get you a part in the next fucking Batman movie or whatever." Like that's not good enough. You won't go to jail for just making up bullshit about yourself. It has to be like lies in such a way to where it becomes like criminal deception, I guess, which is a pretty like high bar to hit. You know what I mean? So, which I mean, think about it though. When was the last time you didn't lie to a girl that you were like into? Right? Like at least in some way you didn't try to make yourself look better in order to like impress her. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of guys do that. I know I'm guilty of that, of trying to like impress women in order that I was like interested in. I know I'm guilty of that. I don't know if I never like straight out lied about like what I did or how much money I made or any shit like that, but I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Fanver, I think that it will be too hard to prove anything in court as saying stuff like, I don't have a place to stay tonight. That feels too hard to create evidence or counter evidence. Yeah, that's true. The second, I think coercion is only considered rape in certain states, still illegal everywhere though. It is in, yeah, I know in California. I know in some of the southern states like Indiana, there have been court cases where you wouldn't believe the kind of shit that men got away with, you know? Like there was one court case that I heard where a guy went into like this girl's house and said that he was like her boyfriend and it was dark and like they started getting it on and then after the lights came on she was like, "Hey, you're not my boyfriend." And then like somehow like the court sided with him on that, where that sounds like that would be kind of criminal fucking deception right there, right? I don't even know if criminal deception is like an actual fucking like, I don't even know if that's like a real like legal term. I just sort of made it up, but you know what I mean, like, but he still got away with it because technically she consented even though it was dark and she didn't know it was him. So I know it like can be different in various states. You know, it's different depending on which state you're in, but it's still wrong, like everywhere. I think it should be wrong. I don't know. Let's see. Zach Second. Yeah, I don't see any legal repercussions. He's a public figure, and people see who he really is now, and that's what matters. Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna. I don't know if any more allegations come out and if they persist, you could see this guy probably losing his HBO special for sure. He may still maintain his YouTube channel because YouTube seems to allow all kinds of like people with very sordid pasts on to make content. He may lose his monetization, but I'm pretty sure his YouTube channel will still be there. You know, probably going to lose his HBO special. So if you guys want to watch that, now's the time to watch it before it goes away because it's probably going to disappear. I don't know. I haven't actually seen it yet. But I think, maybe that's proportional to what he did. Maybe that's what he deserves. Maybe he deserves to kind of lose a little bit of money for a little while and but not go to prison per se, but you know, I don't know. Lewis the Hedgehog, imagine how they would react to Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Their heads would explode. I would not blame them. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers? Isn't that a movie with like I think I've seen that movie? Like about like hillbillies or something, and then there's like seven women that move in with them or something like that. I don't know. Not sure what you mean by that though, Lewis. Putting throughout my favorite false accusation is the one that one time a group of high school girls falsely accused a boy they'd never met just because they didn't like him and he got expelled. Shit. Yeah, shit like that happens all the time. I heard one about a guy who basically killed himself. Like I was reading Reddit on Reddit, and there was an off my chest about a guy whose friend was falsely accused, and then he committed suicide, and then the girl came out 5 years later, and it's like, yeah, shit like that does happen, and that's the thing. It's like, this stuff isn't as cut and dry as people like to think, you know. So that's why you need to, like I said, the trust but verify. Like, it doesn't mean you necessarily even believe, when a lot of people on the left will say things like you should automatically believe the woman. And, well, I think you don't automatically believe everything she says, but what you should do is not um, immediately discount her, right? You shouldn't just immediately be like, "You're full of shit, get out of here," because you like the content creator or you like the person that's being accused for whatever reason. You know, if it's true and it actually happened, then it'll come to light, you know. I mean, and even if, it depends. Sometimes the person being accused is just too powerful. Like Donald Trump, for example, has rape accusations against him. He's just too powerful. Too many people like him, you know. But he's got multiple allegations. It fits the same fucking pattern over and over, of he's even got somebody, what's her name, the doctor that he supposedly raped in the 90s, trying to get his DNA sample because she still has supposedly the dress that it happened with. She preserved it this whole time and wants to match up the DNA, and it's like it could very well turn out pretty soon in the foreseeable future that Donald Trump has a very has actual physical evidence against him. Is anything going to happen to him? Is he ever going to go to jail for it? Probably not. He's too fucking rich and powerful, right? It'll probably never happen. But that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that it's wrong to step forward. You know, I mean, you just let's verify the story, right? Let's not immediately discount what the accusers are saying, but let's verify the story. Let's not completely destroy the man's career before we actually get the truth. And it's like, well, like we said, when there's one accuser, it's easy to discount it. It's easy to be like, okay, but when there's 13, not so much, you know, especially when the girl that's accusing him has photos of them together taking selfies, right? So you know that they were together one day and all this other shit. She's got receipts, man. I mean, it's not looking good for him. I don't know. Let's see. Fanver, I personally think you can continue to enjoy their content as long as you remember the person creating it is not a good person, as there is genuine good that can be extracted despite everything else. Yeah, I think that's true up to a limit. You know, I think that limit for me is rape and murder. Someone who rapes somebody, someone who murders someone, I'm not gonna watch their shit. You know, that's that's it. I'm not reading, for example, Adolf Hitler's book. I'm not listening to Charles Manson's songs. That's the limit. If you're an asshole, if you cheat on your taxes, if you're like a dick to women, something like that, that's one thing. But those are the two crimes for me that where it becomes too far, and I'm not going to like monetarily support somebody. I might steal their content. I have no problem, like for example, stealing content from people where I don't like the creators, like all the way. Like somebody like fucking J.K. Rowling. I don't give a fuck about J.K. Rowling. I'll download her like movies and books and shit illegally all the time because fuck her. Right? That's what I think. I can still enjoy Harry Potter. I can still watch the fucking Fantastic Beasts movies, whatever. I'm not paying for a ticket. She ain't getting one like red cent out of me. Like I'll like fucking like I'll fucking like download that shit. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, I think that's I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, folks, it's fucked up. The world is not perfect. The world's not perfect. Bad shit happens to people, and people do bad things, and I think that's one thing. You understand that celebrities are just normal people, right? And like normal people, they go through and they do shitty things to other people. They treat people wrong, that kind of thing. And I don't know, what can you say? Right? I hope this is it. I hope, because I really do want to enjoy his content. And I think so far even though what he's doing, this guy Andrew Callaghan, even though what he's done is shitty, like it is like right on the edge of being canceled. Like no more support on me from me. You know, and if any other stories come out about him doing anything worse, then I think I'm gonna have to jump on that. I'm gonna have to go over that edge and stop supporting the guy. But Right now, I'm just kind of like, he seems, you know what it seems to me? He just seems like. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. It seems to me that he's like sort of a like this dude would be like an incel, but he figured out a strategy that actually works sometimes. It's just that his strategy is pathetic and creepy, you know? It's pathetic to like beg women for sex. Like, don't beg. Like, the fuck are you, a dog? Like, I don't know. Seems like, yeah, like I don't know. I mean, it's a fucked up situation, folks. It's late. I gotta get going. Thank you guys for joining me. I know I didn't announce this at all. I gave you all of 10 minutes warning before this went live, but thank you for joining. We'll be back on Saturday as usual. And once again, if you guys are so inclined, you can join my Discord where I'm putting all this stuff up here. I will put a link to the Discord right after this down in the chat so you guys can get it. Thank you all again so much, and I will see you on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Adios.